If you're over 65 and you're planning a cruise in 2026, this might be the most important video you watch before you step foot on a ship. Over the past year, cruise lines have quietly updated a list of senior-specific rules. Rules that affect mobility devices, health checks, boarding, medical access, travel insurance, cabin assignments, and even which senior passengers are allowed to sail on certain itineraries. And here's the part almost nobody knows. Most of these changes aren't advertised. They're not mentioned in the brochures, not highlighted in the app, and definitely not explained at the time of booking. You only find out when it's too late. A 68-year-old couple recently arrived at their cruise terminal with a mobility scooter they'd used on multiple sailings, only to be denied boarding because a measurement rule had changed. A 66-year-old woman missed half her boarding window because she didn't fill out a new health form she didn't even know existed. And several seniors were held in secondary screening simply because a brand new insurance requirement hadn't been completed before check-in. These are real stories from real passengers who thought their previous cruise experience meant they were prepared. So today I'm breaking down every major new senior rule for 2026. What changed, why it changed, and exactly what you need to do to avoid being stopped at the port. After we cover all the rules, we'll move into the senior perks and advantages cruise lines never advertise. And then the final section where I reveal the 2026 senior-only loopholes that can save you hundreds. But only when you use the right phrasing. Let's start with the rules because this is where most seniors get blindsided. Rule 1. The 22-inch mobility scooter rule, now strictly enforced. 3 years ago, mobility scooters were rarely questioned. Today, they're one of the biggest reasons seniors are denied boarding. A 72-year-old Florida passenger used the same mobility scooter on 5 cruises without any issues. She returned to the same ship this year and security blocked her from boarding because her scooter measured 24 inches wide. The new limit is 22 inches for standard cabins. This is no longer a soft guideline. It's enforced because narrow corridors plus evacuation protocols plus oversized scooters equals safety hazard. If your scooter does not fit through a standard cabin door, the cruise line legally cannot allow you to board unless you booked an accessible cabin. Accessible cabin doors are around 32 inches wide. Standard doors, 22. That 2-inch difference can end your entire vacation. If your device is too wide, you'll be required to upgrade your cabin or rent a compliant scooter from an approved vendor like Scootaround. No exceptions at the terminal and no refunds. Measure your scooter before you do anything else. Rule 2. Mandatory senior health declaration, 48 to 72 hours before sailing. Millions of seniors have cruised for years without ever filling out pre-boarding health forms. That era is over. Starting late 2025 and rolling fully into 2026, cruise lines now require passengers, especially those over 65, to complete a health declaration at least 48 hours before boarding. Seniors who ignore this email are the ones held in long secondary screening lines. The form asks about recent symptoms, fevers, coughs, dizziness, stomach bugs, hospital visits, and sometimes vaccination details depending on itinerary. If you don't fill it out in time, your boarding may be delayed or denied. Cruise lines implemented this after realizing they could prevent onboard outbreaks by screening seniors earlier. Many older passengers simply assume they can answer questions at the terminal. Not anymore. Check your email and your cruise app 72 hours before sailing. Complete the form immediately. Rule 3. The 2026 Senior Drink Package Discount Window, hidden and phone only. This is where the rules and money collide. Cruise lines have created unpublished senior discounts for drink packages, but they don't appear online, aren't shown in the app, and can't be applied by regular phone agents. They're buried inside the loyalty department system and are only visible 30 to 60 days before sailing. This means most seniors unknowingly buy drink packages at full price when they actually qualify for 10 to 25% off. One couple from Texas saved $487 by pure accident when an agent mentioned it. To activate this rule, you must call the loyalty line and say, "I'm over 65 and a loyalty tier guest. Are there any senior sailing promotions available for drink packages on my upcoming cruise?" Some agents won't check. Hang up. Call again. The discount lives in the system, but only loyalty reps can see it. Rule 4. Mandatory travel insurance for seniors. 70 plus for certain itineraries. This rule has caught more seniors off guard than almost anything else on the list. If you're 70 or older and sailing to destinations like Alaska, Antarctica, remote Pacific islands, transatlantic routes, or far north itineraries, you may now be required to show proof of travel insurance before your boarding pass can be issued. Not optional. Required. This includes at least $100,000 in medical evacuation coverage because cruise lines have dealt with repeated six-figure rescue operations where seniors couldn't pay, and the line was forced to absorb the cost. If you don't upload proof during online check-in, your boarding can be delayed or refused. Always ask your cruise line, do passengers over 70 require travel insurance for this itinerary? And what coverage is mandatory? Purchase insurance within 14 days of your deposit to secure pre-existing condition coverage. Rule 5. Complimentary medical consultation for seniors, but only in first 24 hours. This isn't a perk. It's now considered a recommended safety rule. Cruise lines strongly encourage seniors to request a free medical review with the ship's doctor in the first 24 hours. This includes medication checks, interaction risks, mobility concerns, and emergency plans. They don't advertise it because if all seniors knew, medical centers would be overwhelmed on embarkation day. But it's there, quietly. And it can prevent major problems. If you're 65 or older, go to guest services after boarding and say, I'd like to schedule my complimentary medical consultation. This rule exists because cruise lines must reduce in-voyage emergencies, and medication mismanagement is one of the most common triggers. Rule 6. Senior dining reservation priority, new for 2026. Cruise lines won't call this a rule, but it is one. If you're over 65 and you want early dining, you must request it during online check-in, or you'll be placed into whatever time slot is left over. Because of crowded dining rooms and fewer staff, seniors are now given quiet priority, but only if they ask. Dining managers confirmed they will accommodate seniors whenever possible, but the system doesn't automatically flag age. Seniors often get stuck with 8:15 p.m. dinners they can't comfortably handle. If you want earlier dining, request it during check-in or speak to the maitre d' on embarkation. Rule 7. The new Senior Emergency Contact Requirement. If you're 70 plus, certain cruise lines now require you to list an emergency contact before boarding passes are released. No phone number equals no boarding document. This was added after multiple situations where elderly passengers needed urgent family contact, and staff couldn't reach anyone. If you leave it blank, your online check-in stalls and you won't know why. Rule 8. Senior Tendering Priority. Only if you ask beforehand. Tender ports are some of the most beautiful stops on any cruise. Little islands, lagoons, hidden beaches, but they can also be the most chaotic. Unlike docked ports where you can simply walk off, tender ports require small boats to shuttle passengers back and forth. And here's the part most seniors never discover until it's too late. Those boats load in strict groups, and the lines can stretch for hours if you don't know the system. Seniors actually do get priority tendering now, but the cruise lines will never announce it, never advertise it, and never automatically apply it. If you simply show up on tender morning without registering, you'll be treated the same as every other passenger. Meaning you could be stuck waiting in a noisy, crowded lounge, moving in slow inch-by-inch lines, and struggling with stairs or movement as the tender bounces in the water. The only way to get tender priority is to register the night before. Guest services won't ask you, your cabin steward won't remind you, and the daily planner usually buries this information under general accessibility notes. When you go down to guest services the evening before the tender port and politely request priority tendering assistance due to mobility needs, everything changes. Your name is added to a discrete list. You're assigned to the earliest tender groups alongside families with infants and passengers on ship-sponsored excursions. When morning arrives, crew members will guide you to a quieter waiting area, seat you comfortably, and escort you to the tender with significantly less crowding. On ships with rougher tender landings, think small Pacific islands, older Caribbean ports, or windy Mediterranean stops, seniors who don't register can face real challenges. The tender steps are narrow, the boats rock, and the boarding platform can shift with the waves. Priority tendering reduces that risk by placing seniors on boats with the 1 calmest conditions and 2 the most available staff assistants. If you're over 65 or have any mobility limitation at all, a weak knee, balance concerns, joint pain, difficulty standing for long periods, registering for priority tendering is not just a perk. It's a safety measure, but again, the key is timing. Register before 9 p.m. the night before. Wait until morning and the list may be closed. This single step can save you discomfort, stress, and sometimes the port stop entirely. Rule 9. The quiet cabin reassignment rule for seniors. With medical devices. This rule shocks almost every senior the first time it happens, because cruise lines almost never explain it clearly. If you use a CPAP machine, insulin that requires refrigeration, a nebulizer, a portable oxygen concentrator, or even certain cardiac monitoring devices, the ship's system may quietly reassign your cabin before you sail. Seniors often assume this is a downgrade or a mistake, especially if they originally booked a high deck, a balcony, or a location near friends. But in most cases, the reassignment has nothing to do with price or availability. It's about electrical stability and proximity to medical services. Modern cruise ships manage power differently than hotels. Not all cabins have the same electrical output, breaker reliability, or emergency backup coverage. Cabins near laundries, restaurants, high-traffic elevators, entertainment decks, or heavy kitchen equipment often experience small power fluctuations as large systems turn on and off. These micro-drops don't bother the average passenger. But for seniors using medical devices, especially CPAP machines or refrigerated medication packs, those fluctuations can interrupt function, shut the device off, or trigger alarms. So the cruise lines built an internal safety rule. If a passenger over 65 lists medically relevant equipment on their booking, the system may move them to cabins near the medical center, closer to generator-supported zones, or into sections of the ship with more stable power distribution. This often means midship cabins on medical access decks. It can also mean cabins with fewer neighboring appliances, quieter surroundings, and faster emergency response routes. Here's the problem. Because these reassignments happen behind the scenes, seniors often panic when they see their original cabin changed. They assume they've been downgraded, bumped, or pushed aside. In reality, it's a protection system working exactly as designed. If you rely on any medical devices at all, you should notify the cruise line before cabin assignments finalize, ideally within a week of booking. Once your health notation is attached to your reservation, the system will place you in the safest area from the start instead of moving you unexpectedly later. This also prevents last-minute location shuffle, where seniors arrive at the port only to find their cabin changed without explanation. And here's something most people don't know. Seniors who notify the cruise line early often receive better cabins, not worse ones. Medical access decks include rooms that are quieter, more centrally located, and closer to elevators. Features many passengers pay extra for. So if you use a CPAP or anything similar, don't stay silent. Declare it early. Your cruise will be smoother, safer, and far less stressful. Section 2. The hidden perks seniors never know they have. Now that you know the new senior rules cruise lines quietly rolled out for 2026, we can finally get into the good part. The perks. And not the fluffy brochure perks. I'm talking about the hidden, unadvertised, behind-the-scenes advantages cruise lines offer older passengers without ever promoting them. These perks save seniors money, unlock upgrades, remove stress, and make the entire trip smoother. But they only work for people who know they exist. Let's go through them properly. Perk number 1. Priority boarding for seniors. This is the perk that almost no senior uses simply because they don't want to ask for special treatment. But the truth is that it's not special treatment. It's a built-in accommodation that staff are trained to follow, but only when seniors specifically request it. I've spoken to so many seniors who spent an hour standing in a slow, twisting boarding line, knees aching and back tightening, thinking they had no choice. But then, on a later cruise, a crew member quietly mentioned, "If you're over 65, you can request priority boarding assistance." They walked up to the desk, asked, and were directed straight into the priority lane. Cruise lines don't advertise this because if every passenger knew, everyone would ask. But when a senior politely requests boarding assistance at the check-in counter, they almost always receive it immediately. Not because the cruise line is bending rules, but because they already have protocols in place to make boarding safer and more comfortable for older guests. Once you step on early, the day feels entirely different, calmer, smoother, more relaxed, and without that exhausted, overheated feeling of standing in line for far too long. Perk number 2, complimentary cabin upgrades for solo senior travelers. This perk is easily one of the most valuable, and it's something booking agents openly admitted to me. Solo seniors get upgraded more than any other group on the ship. Not honeymooners, not first-timers, not even high-tier loyalty members, solo seniors. Why? Because when the cruise line is finalizing cabin assignments, usually 3 to 4 weeks before sailing, they hate leaving rooms empty. Empty cabins cost them money, but upgrading a loyal senior traveling alone? That feels like a win-win. One booking agent told me, if we have spare balconies or ocean views, we almost always move solo seniors into them. They're our most reliable guests, and they're the easiest to place. But the key is that seniors have to ask. The seniors who call the cruise line around 30 days before sailing often get bumped up to ocean views or balconies completely free. The seniors who don't ask, they stay exactly where they are. Cruise lines don't hand out upgrades automatically, but they absolutely hand them out to the people who know when to call. This perk exists for one reason. Seniors are some of the most loyal cruisers on Earth. Cruise lines quietly reward that, but only if the passenger initiates the conversation. Perk number 3, senior shore excursion discounts, hidden on purpose. This is one of the most protected, quiet perks on board, and it saves seniors more money than almost anything else. If you try to book shore excursions online before your cruise, you will never see a senior rate. The website always shows full price. The app always shows full price, and most seniors assume that means no discount exists. But on board, that's where the real pricing appears. When you walk up to the shore excursion desk on the ship and book in person, the staff can apply senior pricing, often 10 to 20% off, simply by checking your ID. This discount is designed specifically for passengers over 65. Cruise lines don't advertise it because if they did, no one would prepay months in advance. And advance prepayment is one of the biggest sources of revenue for the cruise line, so they keep the senior rate hidden behind the counter. The seniors who wait until they board, walk up to the desk, and ask, they save hundreds on a single cruise. The seniors who pre-book online, they fund the system. This is one of those perks that only exists quietly because it's extremely profitable for the cruise line to keep it that way. Perk number 4, senior dining preference priority. Earlier we talked about the new dining rules, but this perk works hand in hand with them, and it's something most seniors never realize they can do. Many seniors need earlier dining times because of medications, health conditions, or simply comfort. But lately, dining rooms have gotten crowded, and the early time slots are booked out weeks in advance. Here's where the perk comes in. If a senior goes to the maitre d' personally on embarkation day, they can almost always be moved off the waitlist and into their preferred dining time, even when the app shows full or waitlist only. Dining managers confirmed this to me privately. They will quietly prioritize seniors, especially those over 70, because predictable mealtimes are considered an essential accommodation, not a luxury. But again, the cruise line won't tell you that. You must walk in, ask politely, and let them handle it. Seniors who do this get the dining schedule they want every time. Seniors who don't end up eating at 8:15 p.m., wondering why the app never updated. Perk number 5, priority tender access for seniors. On tender ports where passengers take smaller boats to shore, the situation can get physically overwhelming. Long lines, tight spaces, hot hallways, unstable platforms, and lots of standing still. For seniors, this is one of the hardest parts of cruising, and that's exactly why cruise lines built a quiet system for seniors to board tenders earlier, with assistance and without waiting in the crowd. But here's the catch. It is not automatic. It does not trigger by itself. Seniors must go to guest services the night before the tender port and request assisted tendering or senior priority tender boarding. Once they do, they're slotted into the first or second departure groups while everyone else queues in the hallway behind iron gates. If you don't ask the night before, you don't get it. If you do, your entire tender day becomes calm, organized, and far safer. The staff knows seniors need it. They're trained for it, They just won't announce it over the PA system because then everyone will want it. Perk number 6. Quiet cabin reassignment for seniors with medical needs. This is one of the most misunderstood senior perks on the ship. When a senior lists certain medical needs, like a CPAP machine, refrigerated medication, electrical medical devices, or any condition that requires proximity to the medical center, the ship will often reassign them to better cabins for safety. Not worse, better. These reassigned cabins usually have more stable electrical systems, smoother walking routes, fewer hallway obstacles, and closer medical access. Some seniors even end up in midship cabins that other passengers pay hundreds extra for. But because the cruise line doesn't advertise this perk, seniors often think their room was downgraded or changed randomly. It wasn't random. It was for your safety and comfort. And most passengers never even realized the ship was quietly looking out for them. Section 3. The advanced senior secrets that cruise lines hope you never learn. You've seen the new rules. You've discovered the hidden perks. Now it's time for the part cruise lines absolutely pray seniors never hear about. The advanced strategies that unlock upgrades, discounts, and priority treatment without ever having to argue or push. These aren't myths. They're real systems built into cruise line procedures, used quietly by experienced cruisers, senior loyalty members, and travel agents who know how to ask the right questions. This is where the biggest money is saved, and the ship's most guarded privileges live. Let's start with one that's already being tested on several major cruise lines. The 2026 Senior Disembarkation Change, a quiet but important rule. There's a new expectation for 2026. Seniors who need disembarkation assistance must register with guest services by 5 p.m. the day before arrival. If they don't, the ship may not have enough staff available to help, and seniors end up waiting far longer than before. This change happened after multiple overcrowded disembarkations last year, where too many seniors requested help at the same time without notifying staff. If you're over 65, or even if you simply want a calmer exit, the cruise line will arrange a dedicated senior lane, but only if you register the day before. Most seniors don't know this, and they end up in the same chaotic crowd as everyone else. The one booking phrase that unlocks the most perks for seniors. Travel agents, loyalty staff, and onboard managers all told me the same thing. The biggest secret for seniors in 2026 is knowing how to communicate your age and loyalty in a single sentence. When speaking to an agent, whether booking, upgrading, asking for promotions, or checking for cabin improvements, say this phrase: "I'm over 65 and a returning guest. Could you check if there are any senior loyalty considerations or offers available for my sailing?" This sentence does 3 things at once. It tells them your age, which triggers senior-specific perks. It tells them you're loyal, which triggers tier-based perks. And it uses the word considerations, which agents recognize as a soft request for upgrades, discounts, priority services, or hidden codes. It's polite, it's respectful, and it activates every box in their system that can benefit you without needing to argue, beg, or sound demanding. Most senior perks are request-only systems. This phrase triggers them instantly. The biggest insider warning for seniors in 2026. This is the part nobody wants to talk about. Cruise lines are preparing to introduce even more senior-specific requirements within the next year. These include stricter mobility equipment, approvals, mandatory medical information, uploads priority mid-cruise health screenings, and age-based excursion limitations on challenging tours. These changes won't be rolled out loudly. They'll appear quietly, just like the health forms and scooter rules did. This is why seniors need to stay ahead of the game, stay informed, and stay connected to channels that tell the truth instead of the marketing version. Cruising is still one of the safest, easiest, and most enjoyable trips for seniors, but only if you understand the system the way insiders do. You now know every major senior rule that changed for 2026, every hidden perk cruise lines hope older passengers never learn, and the advanced insider phrases that unlock upgrades, discounts, and smoother sailing. Most seniors walk onto a ship blind to these rules. They hope experience is enough. They assume what worked last time will work again. But 2026 is a very different cruise world, and knowledge is the difference between the seniors who glide through their trip and the seniors who get stopped, delayed, charged, or denied. If this helped you prepare for your next sailing, stay with this channel. We cover the deeper truths the cruise lines never talk about, the ones that save seniors money, stress, and sometimes even the entire holiday. And when you're ready, watch the next video on your screen.